Hey guys, it's Adrian. Today I'm here to bring you the history of my bookshelves tag. I saw this done by Heather over at Bookables, and it was originally created by Emma from Emma Books. I will leave both of their links down in the description box below. You should go check them out. When I saw Heather do this tag, I got so excited. It made me want to get up and film it right away, which is like one of the bigger catapults that made me start my booktube channel up again. There were many, I'm not going to get into it, but I was itching to start anyway, and then I thought I need to get up and film this. A week later, 2 weeks later, it took me a little while, but here I am. Anyway, let's get started because there are 26 questions. This is a long one. Question number 1 is the oldest book on your shelf. I could go through all the publication dates and find out which is the actual oldest book on my shelf, but I didn't really feel like doing that except too many books. So I looked at the oldest book that I have, that I've owned. I have a lot of books that I gave away when I moved to the Netherlands from the States because I couldn't take them all with me. Probably the oldest books are some of my college books, my textbooks, but I'm not going to show you those because those are boring. But this one is probably the oldest book that I have other than some textbook. And that's the 12 Gifts of Birth. I actually got this from my mom when I moved to the Netherlands, and she wrote in it as well, so it's like an annotated book. It has a very special place in my heart, and it's just about 12 gifts that we've been given at birth and about what we can do with those gifts. And my mom made it a little bit personal about talking about my life and the fact that I was moving away, and it's very sentimental. I actually haven't reread this book in a while, and I should probably do it again soon. Questions 2 through 8 is to mention a book that you've read in each year consecutively, starting from 2013, making your way to 2019. But your girl didn't start Goodreads until 2016 because I'm late for every party. So I'm going to skip over to question 5 and start off with a book that I read in 2016. Heather did a book that she enjoyed, a book that she didn't enjoy, and I really like that, so that's what I'm going to do. My favorite book of 2016 was probably many people's favorite book in 2016, and that's A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is easily the best book that she's ever written, including Crescent City, which is a completely different story, but I loved this book, and it is probably the book that got me into fae fantasy. My most disappointing book of that year is probably an unpopular opinion, and that's The Book Thief by Mark Zuzak. I couldn't get into it. I think, I mentioned this in a couple of videos before, I think it has to do with the fact that it was a usually Dutch audiobook and it just wasn't good. I have a feeling that this is like a very lyrical almost book that you should read in the original language, and I didn't. But I really didn't like this book. It was so boring. I did finish it because back in the day I did DNF books, so I read it, but I didn't like it. My favorite book in 2017 was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, for reasons that I will tell you in a little while because it's the answer to another question. My least favorite book in 2017 was Lies of Silence by Brian Moore. This book just went in circles and went nowhere. It was frustrating, it was annoying, and it had a lot to do with infidelity, which is not something that I like to read about and not something that I condone, but it was condoned in this book. Just, no. Didn't like it. Just didn't like it. In 2018, my favorite book was Gemina by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. And yes, I like Gemina more than I like Obsidio. This is my favorite book, which is odd because it's a lot of people's least favorite book in the series, but this was my favorite book. I loved it. This is the book that got me into J. Kristoff's writing, and since then I have been flying through all of his books. I love them. He has awakened my appreciation for some sci-fi. I say some because there's still a lot of sci-fi that I just don't like. I'm not a huge sci-fi fan. But these were phenomenal. My least favorite book in 2018 was What I Saw and How I Lied by Judy Blundell. I couldn't do this book. I did finish it. It was a post-World War II, I want to say post-World War II book. And it just had a lot to do with like deception and lying, and this young girl was in love with this old man who was around her father's age, or I don't know if he was quite that old, I can't remember. But anyway, the story, I didn't like it. I was bored the whole way through and it irritated the heck out of me. My favorite book in 2019 was Eleanor by Jason Gurley. This book I got at the dollar store. Best book I think I've spent in a really long time. This is a sort of like fantasy, magical realism, paranormal. I don't really know how to explain it. I do have a spoiler-free review for this book. Go check it out because this book was phenomenal. Obviously why? It's my favorite book of the year. But it was beautiful on so many levels and it threw me for a loop. and things did not turn out the way that I thought that they would, and I enjoyed it. Again, this one is also sort of time travel, sort of parallel universe, but not. It's complicated. Go check out the review. You'll like it, I promise. The book, maybe not the review. My least favorite book in 2019 I actually feel really bad about because it's an autobiography and I just didn't like it. And that's The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. He actually wrote this book because he was terminally ill and he wanted to leave one last lecture. While I appreciate the sentiment behind the story and while I do feel for the family of this author, I really didn't like this book, and I feel like God is gonna come down from heaven and say shame on you because I should love it, but I really didn't, and I hate saying it. My heart dies a little bit every time I say it. I didn't like it. I really didn't. Moving on to question 9, is a book you've read more than once? I don't read a whole lot of books more than once. I have, generally speaking, a pretty good memory. At least if I can't remember what the book was entirely about, once I start reading, I remember everything. So it kind of decreases the reading enjoyment. Also, there are so many books that I have to read. I don't read a whole lot of them many times. But the exception to that rule, besides Velveteen Rabbit, is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I read this book probably once every year to once every 2 years. I really enjoy it. I also read The Magician's Nephew several times, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I've read most of them. I haven't read The Silver Chair and The Last Battle more than once. So I should probably do that pretty soon. Number 10 is a book you waited more than a year to be published. I'm not really good at remembering how long I waited for things. I'm generally an impatient person, but then after everything's said and done, it really didn't feel like that long. I can tell you books that I'm still waiting longer than a year. First one is Tell the Bees That I Have Gone by Diana Gabaldon, the 9th book in the Outlander series, which was supposed to be published last year and didn't come on time. I know they take forever to research and to write, and they're absolutely phenomenal books, so I'm willing to wait, but it's frustrating. Also, the 3rd Patrick Rothfuss book, which we do have a name for. I just can't remember what it is because I'm a terrible person. And lastly, I've been waiting for the 4th, technically, yeah, the 4th ACOTAR book, 5th if you count Course of Frost and Starlight. Waiting for all those for multiple years, and they're still not here. Next up is a book you've read on vacation. You'd think that I'd say A Nice Fluffy Contemporary, which is what I usually read on vacation. But no, I picked An Ember in the Ashes by Subhasa Heer. I read this when we went on a mini family vacation in May, probably 2016. I'm thinking that's when I read this because it was a relatively new book. And I loved it. It was political fantasy. This was the first fantasy book that I had actually read in quite some time. I read this even before I read the ACOTAR series. I loved it. It was great. I recommend it if you haven't read it. I still haven't read the 3rd book in the series, and I think the 4th one is coming soon or has come already. I don't know, I'm behind, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Next one is a book you got from someplace special. So not from a bookstore or an online shop, which is where I get the majority of my books. But I do have one, and technically it's not mine. And my daughter's sitting next to me, and I'm going to get in trouble. But this one is Velveteen Rabbit. And my mom read Velveteen Rabbit every year to a rehabilitation center for women who have life-controlling issues. And when I was growing up, I went with my mom all the time, and then I took my kids, well, my oldest daughter, I took 1 year. I think she was maybe 4. And they read this book, and they gave this book to my kids, and it had something written in it as well, but I stole it because I collect these books, and they can't have it. But anyway, this is given from a special place, also from a very special person who means a lot to my family. And I treasure it. I will treasure it for a long time. And when my kids are big and responsible, then maybe one day I will let them have it. And then we have a book that made you cry. I'm bringing back It Ends With Us. This is the reason that I was telling you about earlier. This book is the only book ever in the history of all of my many years that has ever made me cry. I've gotten like the eye stings, like I feel like I want to cry, but I don't really cry. This book, I bawled my eyes out, and my kids were sitting next to me on the couch. This book is about a girl who is physically abused, and she's trying to get out of their relationship. It's very close to home. Can't talk about it because kids, but it made me cry. It made me cry. I sent it to my mom, and my mom read it. It made her cry too, and it's just great. Number 14 is a book that you read in one sitting. Things My Son Needs to Know About the World by Frederick Buckman. This is a tiny little book, and there are some pages that are mostly empty. I flew through this. It was hysterical. I listened to it in audio while I read it. I think I talked about this in a recent video. Fantastic book. Fantastic. Next up is a book that was given as a gift. These two books were given to me recently as a gift, and they're both Colleen Hoover books. My mom gave them to me during quarantine to keep myself sane. And the first one is Verity, and the second one is Regretting You. I have not yet read either of these books, even though quarantine is now almost over, but I am very excited to get to them soon. They will be great summer contemporary reads. Number 17 is a book you read before you owned. I looked, I really did, and I couldn't find one that I can remember. And memory may not be serving me correct, but I don't think that I have one. Mostly because if I read a book, I don't want to buy it again unless I absolutely loved it. But most books that I think I'm going to love, I generally wait for and buy when they're on sale, or read them in audiobook and then don't buy the book, but I can't think of any, sorry. Number 18 is a book that has been damaged. This one breaks my soul. When we were moving, I had coffee on the table and I was packing up my books. Really? Why? I don't know why, because I'm an idiot. The coffee fell over and it ruins my book, and a lot of the pages are now dry, so you can't tell too much, but you can feel it. It feels gross. I ruined it. Next up is a book you got on sale or on discount. A lot of books I get on sale or on discount. A lot of the books my friend has given me when she goes to the thrift stores in England, because here in the Netherlands there aren't many English books in the thrift stores. But not counting those, because technically they're like the ultimate sale, but just regular price books on sale. The most recent one that I got was The Surrogate by Louise Jensen. This one was on sale at Book Depository for like $4, and it's a psychological thriller, or a thriller about a surrogate. When I got this book, a couple of my friends and family members were pregnant, and it was like this wave, and I was fighting off the I want to have another baby, but oh god, I'm too old to have another baby. I do not want to have another baby. So I wanted to read The Surrogate. Why do I want to read a psychological thriller about being pregnant? I don't know. Maybe to kick myself out of the idea that I want to have a third child. I do not want to have a third child. I have no plans to have a third child, just for your information. But I bought the book for $4. Number 20 is a book that you've done as a buddy read. I have done a couple of buddy reads in my day, but the one that sticks out the most is probably the one that I had the most fun with, because I did it with the most fun person. And that's Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I read this book with Kim from Kim Here way back in 2017, right when that book came out, like a few weeks later. We did a whole read along. It was a lot of fun. We were both booktube newbies. Kim now does a bunch of other different things with her YouTube channel. Also very, very fantastic. If you haven't been checking out her videos, you should. I'll leave her link down in the description box below as well. But we had so much fun. We had differing opinions about this book. I liked it a lot more then than I do now, but I enjoyed it. And it was fun to do a buddy read with Kim because we had a blast. By the way, Kim, if you're watching and you're still reading books and you want to do another buddy read, we should totally do that. Number 21 is a book you associate with a song. I'm terrible at this. I'm like a jukebox. I can remember words of songs, but I cannot associate books with songs. I tried, and I got nothing for you. 22 is a book you associate with food. The only book I can think of is a book that actually has to do with food, because I'm not a creative person whatsoever. And that's The Art of Baking Blind by Sarah Bouchen. I'm going with Bouchen. This is a book about a baking competition. It was alright. It wasn't that great, but it does remind me of food. Next up is a book that you bought years ago that you probably wouldn't buy again. This one was a total booktube made me do it, and I wouldn't buy it again if I could go back and tell past me. That's Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I thought that I would like this book because of time travel, and it was about pirates as well, and I don't like pirate books, apparently. It also put me off for any pirate books. I did like it, and back then Adrienne was really nice with her Goodreads star ratings, because I didn't like to give anybody less than a 3 stars because I felt awful. I gave this book a 4 stars. I probably would give this book a 2 stars if I could re-rate it. In fact, I may. But I didn't like it, and so I wouldn't buy it again. Number 24 is a book that you associate with a specific period in your life. Up until now, I've been trying to pick up books that I only own. This book I don't actually own because it means so much to me that I give it to someone that I love very much. And that's The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. I've talked about this book several times. Actually, my whole channel name is based off of this book. I will leave a link to it in the description box below if you want the explanation. But anyway, a friend of mine had given me this book when I announced that I would be moving out of the United States to the Netherlands. And long story short, I am legally blind, and I was very young and single and very inexperienced in life, and nobody believed in me and thought that I should go, with good reason that I can say now that I'm 35 and not 20. But a friend of mine did, and she knew that it was a dream of mine, and she gave me the book The Dream Giver, and she wrote in it, and it was very special. And I gave it to somebody that I love that probably didn't read the book, which breaks my heart, but maybe they did, in which case, there you go. 2 more books, guys. Almost done. Thanks the Lord Almighty. Number 25, a book you used to like, but you don't anymore. I'm going to go with the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. It was really hyped when it came out, especially just before the movies came out. And I read them, and I did enjoy them. I read all 3 of them actually rather quickly. I have discovered since then that I'm not a huge dystopian fan. I just don't like them, and this book I feel like I only liked because a lot of people were loving the book and I felt like I should, but I wasn't really. I feel like this book was okay. The second 2 books got just worse and worse as they went along. But lastly is number 26, the book that you have most recently acquired to your bookshelves, and that is The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten Weiss. I talked about this a little bit in my June TBR. I'm really excited to read this one. I will be reading it in June for sure. That wraps up for the history of my bookshelf tag. If you've done this tag, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to know and love to watch your tag videos, because I love these kinds of things that kind of like delve into our past and our present, and it's very exciting. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you have not yet, I'd love for you to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.